We've been given the go-ahead to pull the boat out, put it on the hard, and finally repaint the hulls. Yeah, I don't think we'll get anywhere near it. Previously on Sailing 9 Lives.
We prepared our catamaran's hull for a new paint job by filling defects with 2-part marine epoxy.
All surfaces to be painted were then sanded down, ready to be coated with primer and then paint.
We cleared everything out of the boat so we could clean it in preparation for a relaunch and do some sailing.
And a new member of the crew began preparations to join 9 Lives. Hey guys, so my shipment came in from Engineered Marine Coatings, and I have here what I think is the Genius bucket with the blue top coat that I'm going to use to paint the hulls. And I also have some extras that I ordered with that. So there should be some primer, second step top coat, third step clear coat. I really wanted to put the boat closer to the water. Instead, I've got to deal with this. My worry is that the train going by is going to kick up a lot of dust. So my plan, really, is to wait for a train to go by, do the wipe down, and then paint. And I gotta hope that the paint will skin over before the next train goes by and kicks up more dust. Here we go with the new edge. And then at the stern here, where the side of the hull meets the transom, it's going to be blue on the hull side and then white on the transom side. So I need to mask off the dividing line between the hull side and the transom. So I did all this prep and I just realized I forgot the handle for the rollers. All these seeds and things floating around on the breeze are all gonna end up in my primer. She's good at mixing and good looking too. We do everything scientifically, in a very clean way. I'm just gonna use the same mark. A little higher. Okay. Liner, so I don't have to clean anything. Because obviously I do everything as clean as possible. If I was doing this right, I'd have larger cups and I would actually store this in a cup. But right now, I'm going to store it in the bucket.
It's painted.
Now, let's do this.
doing a color change on the boat. It's a white boat and we're gonna make it a blue boat. And we had to go with a gray primer because we don't want any of the white to show through. So we have to go with a bit of a darker primer. We gotta do about 3 coats of primer. So right now we're on our first. It's taking a little bit longer than we expected. So we are gonna do probably 1 hull today. Luckily it's the summertime, so the sun won't set for a little while. We are excited to get this project done earlier in the year so that we could go sailing most of the summer. But it is mid-June, so hopefully we could get this boat painted in the next couple weekends. It's tricky, but we're making it work. I have to wear this Darth Vader mask because it's very toxic paint. And I don't want to breathe it in. It filters out volatile organic compounds.
Yeah.
So you can breathe easy. It's really fashionable too.
What do you think, Darth Vader?
Yes. See the blue lines? That is where we're going to paint to. So the very bottom of the boat is still going to be white, but the holes on this triangle here are going to be blue. So it'll look like coming at you.
Coming at you.
It's blue, you know?
Coming at you.
We're going to go with a nice blue. Not a light blue, pretty dark blue. It's a good blue, you know? Kind of blue that makes you want to say, that's nice. That's nice.
That's nice. I guess I have to say I'm fairly pleased with the way I masked off the interface between what will be blue and the remainder of the white hull. I think that's going to look pretty decent overall, having that fairly stark transition. I think it's going to look good. So I'll be happy with that, I think. We'll see. Okay, lessons learned today, and this is a lesson I've learned time and time again. First and foremost, regardless of how much I estimate a project is going to take, I should always at least triple it. Funny, every time I put a new layer of primer on, I always find things that for some reason I didn't see before. Like right here, a little divot that I didn't fill. I'll fill that with epoxy. And then there's little pinholes. I went around and filled all the pinholes I could find, and I always find more. There's a pretty good pinhole right there in the bow. Anyway, let's prime this other hull. Sorry, little guy.
Between coats of primer, we ended up sanding out bugs and roller marks as best we can, and also make any additional repairs as necessary with epoxy. Then it was on to the next coat.
Hopefully this is the last time we prime this boat. Well, final sanding of the final coat of primer before I lay down paint. Final sanding, I hope. Because I don't want to risk blowing through the primer, I'm actually sanding everything manually. Not sure I'm gonna get much sanding done tonight. You can see upriver, rain's coming down, and the wind is blowing this way. Well, so much for hand sanding. Back at it. I only have an hour to kill this evening, but I'm working on the concave curve here underneath the bow rail. Pain in the ass. Talk about wavy. Yikes. Boat definitely has waves in it. I'm not sure if this is worth it. Maybe it's better to just use the power sanders. I don't know. I just don't want to blow through the primer. So, whether it's worth it or not, I'm going to finish this by hand and see how it comes out. Well, I'm finished with sanding the final coat of primer with 220 grit paper. Hand sanded it. To the touch, it feels very smooth. I can still see little freckles. They look like freckles. Left over by the nap of the rollers. And I mean, if I really try, I can feel them, but they're very, very subtle. So I'm fairly confident that when I put 2 or 3 layers of top coat on, sand it, and then apply a clear, it's gonna be pretty smooth, I think. Anyway, I'm exhausted. I think I'm done. I'll come by in the morning, clean it up, and then tomorrow afternoon I think I'll apply the first coat of blue top coat. Look at that crazy sky. Alright, let's get ready to mix up our first batch of Palmetto Pride. Ooh, okay. 10 ounces activator. 15.
Careful not to whip it too much because you're going to want to see where the 20 mark is.
Pretty smart for a girl. You know?
Well, you're pretty dumb for a guy.
Yeah, for a guy. 5 ounces of brushing.
Sounds like it's puny. Okay, mix enough paint to work down one side of the hull at a time. We're not painting the whole boat underneath, so obviously we taped off where we think a good line would be visually. We also taped off a 2-inch mark. We're gonna have a white stripe, and that goes down.
Okay, so they say the best way to do this with the rolling is to lay down some about, your shoulder width, right? So maybe another row, you start it there and then stop, and then work it.
First coat. I have to sand down layers of paint in between coats. That way it gets a good mechanical bond, and it ends up ultimately looking very nice. This is the first coat of blue, and since I had a few days delay, I had to sand it down. And then of course my favorite reason is just because it really makes me look cool. The plan, I believe, is to put on at least 2 more coats of blue and sand that final coat for sure with 220, and then lay a coat of clear coat on top. If only the weather would cooperate long enough to allow me to do it.
In our next episode,
We prepped the boat for some white paint on the transoms and for white boot stripes on the sides.
we apply our white paint,
And then sand the blue top coat down before applying a layer of clear coat to complete the whole transformation.
So you can't see my mouth, so all my facial expressions are going to be very dramatic with my eyes and eyebrows. Shut up! I'm filming. Gosh. Ugh. Men. Ugh.